Alright, hi folks. Today our video is on regional and global business environments. We're going to look at the major economic institutions and systems that are found mainly in the Caribbean, some outside of the Caribbean, but where Caribbean countries are members of these institutions. And then we're going to look at how these institutions play out their functions and the impact that it has on the environment. So at the end of it, if you have any questions, you can send it in to me to provide clarity. A lot of the past papers in the latter section, like the last 10 questions of the paper one, you may find topics, sub areas that focus on this main topic, right? So pay attention to some of this. So just to give you a clearer picture of what we're getting into, now there are a few terms that relates to economic integration, which is what we find most of these institutions are all about, right? So I'm just going to clear up some of the terms that relates to economic integration. So we have first of all preferential trading area, which is at the first stage where a free trade area is agreed upon between different countries. A typical example is ACS, Association of Caribbean States. So we have countries which are members of this association and they have developed a trading bloc which gives preferential access between these countries in terms of goods that are traded. Right? So that's one stage of economic integration where countries form part of an association and they developed free trade agreements that are to their preferences. Right? So they have preferential access. Then we have free trade area. Again, we have a group of companies that eliminate barriers between each other. NAFTA is a good example here again, North American Free Trade Association. And we see the countries here removing barriers to trade that allows freer trade between the member countries. And then we have a higher stage now, a higher level of free trade agreements where you have a customs union being formed. So this time we have a group of countries, typical example, CARICOM and the European Union. They would have formed membership of various countries where, for instance, CARICOM have 20 countries and those with observer status. They are part of this union and the main aspect of it is having common external tariffs that allows and foster free trade within that area, right? And then we have a common market, which is at the highest level now of economic integration, which is basically a customs union agreeing with each other on more aspects, right? So a common market is basically a customs union and they are agreeing to product regulations, so they have similar standards or laws when it comes to product standards. Another main aspect is freedom of movement, sorry, of the factors of production. So you have freedom of movement of labor or people, you have freedom of movement of capital, right? And that allows the common market to sync or to have integration, at these levels. So there are also common policies that they come up with. There is even a single market, right? So that in the trading process, they may even share a single, um, well, not single, but agreed upon policies that relates to license, import license, etc. Entry permits into these countries, taxes may also be um, the same, right? And we see a perfect example of this happening within CARICOM, and we're going to talk about CARICOM a little later, where these policies are very similar because they are agreed upon within this common market. We also have monetary unions, and monetary unions are also part of common markets because we find that many cases, some of these unions have common currencies or one single currency. So, in the case of the European Union, which is a customs union and a common market, we see that they also have an element of being a monetary union where they share the same currency, right? So, one of the main currency used within the European Union is the euro, right, which came out of that agreement. And then we have economic monetary union, where you have a single market with a common currency, right? So the common market now carrying a common currency, right? So again, we see a different level there. So again, we see that within countries, within regions, within the world, there are efforts made to integrate on an economic level where there are shared policies, and in particular to free up trade among countries within that region or globally that will benefit all member countries. All right, so on the local level, we have some organizations that are set up to help with the whole movement or to help with the encouragement of trade and to promote trade and protect trade, but on the local level. So one of these organizations, this is an old organization. Right, so the Chamber of Commerce is a body or association. Now, the Chamber of Commerce involves multiple trades or businesses that are part of multiple trades. So it represents businesses of all kinds from within all sectors, right? In terms of their structure and how they operate, there's a board of directors and various committees set up to address, different aspects of the Chamber of Commerce. So it is an organization, however, it is not government controlled, right? So the 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 running of this organization is pretty much based on the private sector businesses and the persons that are elected in the various positions to operate. So one of the main purpose of the Chamber of Commerce is to represent the concerns of and promote investment, encourage free flow of capital, and promote and protect local trade. So it's all about protecting trade for these investors and trying to encourage more trade on the local level and also at the regional or foreign level. Sometimes it is also necessary for them to have discussion on legislations that affects trade for these businesses so that support can be given from government's end to help these businesses to operate much better within the local environment. And also, if there are any trade disputes that arise within these industries, the organization also provides support. So there are many benefits the Chamber of Commerce brings to its members. Of course, seeing that it has a network of various businesses, they share similar interests and concerns which can be voiced, which can be dealt with, and they also provide a large forum for involvement from all ends, community level, government level, and from that private sector level. So it pretty much gives an opportunity to help the industries to grow, and in turn, that will help communities to develop, human resources to develop, and the business sector be more competitive and ready to take it to. We're going to look at the major economic institutions and systems that are found mainly in the Caribbean, some outside of the Caribbean, but where Caribbean countries are members of these institutions. And then we're going to look at how these institutions play out their functions and the impact that it has on the environment. Another organization on the local level, which is more regional local, is the Caribbean Association of Industry. So at the end of it, if you have any questions, you can send it in to me to provide clarity a lot of the past papers in the latter section, like the last 10 questions of the paper one, you may find topics, sub areas that focus on this main topic, right? So pay attention to some of this. So just to give you a clearer picture of what we're getting into, now there are a few terms that relates to economic integration, which is what we find most of these institutions are all about, right? So I'm just going to clear up some of the terms that relates to economic integration. So we have first of all preferential trading area, which is at the first stage where a free trade area is agreed upon between different countries. A typical example is ACS, Association of Caribbean States. So we have then we have Manufacturers Association. Now this one is also an association that is on the ground in terms of within the local country, but this time it is within a particular trade. So a manufacturers association consists of people that is of the same trade, right? They create codes of practice that these members are to follow, and they have their own policies and so that operates or allows them to operate smoothly as an association, right? Any views and issues that they may have is going to be taken to government so that government can help that association to be better operated within the local environment. So the whole purpose here is to help broaden the level of trade for the members, right, in that trade. This may happen through like trade exhibitions, improving on the advertising of the products produced by the association members, and helping members to improve by having more efficient methods of manufacturing or offering their services to the public. So many things are provided, right, by the Manufacturers Association. Example in Grenada is the GCNA, Grenada Cooperative Nutmeg Association. They started way back in 1947, and as we know, their main trade here is manufacturers of nutmegs um, and various spices like mace. We know that mace is the number one product being offered here by this association. And as a matter of fact, Grenada is the only producer of the world's number one maize. All right, so this association has a big role to play in helping to broaden the producers' market for their product. Away from the local environment now, and we go on a global, regional, global level, looking at some of the major organizations that help with fostering better economic integration among countries in the Caribbean and helping these countries to develop. So, of course, we have a very popular one, which is CARICOM, and they play a very massive role member countries. So CARICOM is made up of 15 full members, which means they have full membership, meet all the criteria as members, and then we have some that are associates. All right, so as I listed here, full members include those who started by signing the agreement, the Treaty of Chaguaramas, so you have Barbados, Trinidad, Jamaica, Guyana. Those were the four founding members who signed that treaty or agreement. Later on, we see other countries in the Caribbean joining that common market, right, such as Grenada. And then we have associate members who do not have full membership as yet, Anguilla, Cayman Islands, etc. And some countries even have what we call observer status, like Venezuela, Puerto Rico, etc. Right? Now, the CARICOM is managed by the heads of government of each country that are members, sorry. And then you have the structure including standing committees that are put in charge of managing different areas. What well, I already mentioned some of the countries that are members, but CARICOM has a designated list of countries that are considered less developed. So there are countries that can improve and may have or maybe promoted and encouraged more to in terms of development and maybe given more attention in terms of resources that can help them to develop, right? So they are the less developed countries within the Caribbean, the Caribbean region. So what are the main objectives of CARICOM? Right? Of course, it's all about expanding trade and entering into agreements not just on the regional level but internationally and going out together as a common market and not individually as countries. So everything that are done is on a integrated basis, so coordinated. Foreign policies are coordinated, economic policies are coordinated, um, and then you also have the full employment of labor and other factors of production, which would help to improve the standard of living within these countries. So many of these countries have been impacted positively, as we see improvement in the trading, improvement in terms of the policies of these countries. Countries are able to access, larger regional markets with their products and be able to improve the standard of living for that country. So CARICOM have a number of institutions, some of which we are familiar with, like CXC, CSME, the CCJ, right? So those are just a few of the institutions that CARICOM has actually instituted to allow a more direct or give more direct attention to particular areas. So, in terms of providing a body for, um, providing a means for justice, right? Yes, you do have the court system in every country, but on a Caribbean level, to address, some of the bigger issues, we have the Caribbean Court of Justice. So we no longer need to depend on, courts within the British area or, other systems, judicial systems, right? So they have developed our own Caribbean Court of Justice. All right, so as I mentioned before, one of the institutions that were actually created by CARICOM was CSM, which is the Caribbean Single Market and Economy. So CARICOM basically CSME, right? CSME stands for Caribbean Single Market and Economy. So it was established in 2006 by 6 members, right, of CARICOM, and was later implemented 1st of January 2006, sorry. And later on, we see that other members joined, right? So, with every agreement, everyone may not join at the same time. So, some countries would have joined on later on in that same year. So, all of the CARICOM members, the full members of CARICOM, are members, but except Bahamas, right? So, I guess they have their issues in being part of CSME. Now, CSME have some initiatives which makes up the agreement. So obviously, if the country is not um, in agreement with these initiatives, then they may not be part of that institution. So the main thing of CSME was free trade, right? So development of a free trade area, which is a broader scope now from what CARICOM was providing. So they have deepened the integration even further for these Caribbean member states by allowing a free trade area where there are no tariff barriers between these countries. Right? Free movement of goods and services, free movement of capital, labor, being able to establish businesses within these CARICOM countries, and being able to easily convert your currency. As you see through the banking system, you are able to convert different currencies from these member countries quite easily, right? Um, which you cannot do in some countries in the world. If you go to some countries in the world with EC, that may not be acceptable. Why? because there's no common market between our country and their country, right? So CARICOM has allowed that free movement to take place, which benefits the members, meaning the countries that are part of that group. So many things are provided here, including a common currency. That initiative, of course, is not fully on stream. So that was part of the plan to have a common currency, like how the European Union have a common currency. So CARICOM does not have a common currency as part of the CSME initiative as yet, right? I am not sure how they're going in that regard. I guess some countries are standing ground in terms of being able to control their own currency at their level. So the only aspect of a common currency that we have within CARICOM is the Eastern Caribbean um, the Eastern Caribbean currency. Right, so where you have Eastern Caribbean countries that carry the EC, that's the only aspect we have at that level. But at a CARICOM level, that initiative has not been agreed upon. Right, but we do have common tariffs. So in terms of the taxes for imports, those are common and shared within that agreement, so member countries can levy um, accordingly. Another institution is the Caribbean Development Bank. Institution is mostly, as we say, bank, mostly offering financial services, right? So it offers financial services to its member countries in terms of borrowing to these countries when necessary. Some non-regional members like the UK, Germany, China, Canada, Italy that benefit, but it's more targeting the member countries because remember it's all about economic growth and development of the region. So they provide development funding for infrastructure development, tourism sector development, mining, refining, agriculture, and we're hitting here the capital development aspect of these countries, right? So loans are so these member countries are supported with a capital market here that will help to stimulate growth within these countries. Another institution is the World Bank. Now, of course, the World Bank is not in the Caribbean, but they provide a great support to the Caribbean region, right? So I'm sure you'd have seen many projects um, that were funded by the World Bank, or you'd have heard of many projects that were funded by the World Bank. Another organization on the local level, which is more regional local, is the Caribbean Association of Industry and basically their aim is to reduce poverty worldwide. And we know that the reason why poverty exists is because of the inequality in terms of wealth distribution, people not being employed, persons not being able to earn income that will allow them to improve their standard of living. And it all goes back to industrialization not being the same within every country. So, therefore, some countries may lack income, capital that will allow them to develop their infrastructure, develop their industries, and have various projects that can help to eradicate poverty. So, the World Bank provide the assistance to do these developmental projects. Right? It's all about shared prosperity, and they would provide income to countries that are poorer or that are in need, the lesser developed countries, so that they can improve the standard of living in those countries. So the IBRD agency of the World Bank um, is basically, you know, under the World Bank, and they provide loans, guarantees, advisory services for these countries that are going through these, you know, financial projects or funding development projects. right? So they also work along with the countries that benefit from the services provided by the World Bank. Another institution is the Caribbean Development Bank and American states, and they also provide support to the Caribbean. So part of the membership of the OAS is the Caribbean actually. So it's North and South America, Canada, and the Caribbean, which makes up that organization, right? So their main aim is regional cooperation in relation to economical, social, and cultural matters. And they also help in settling disputes among member countries. So we see impact in terms of programs that help in terms of monitoring these countries' economy, providing support in terms of terrorism, cyber crimes, drug trafficking, money laundering, human rights issues. We see support also to countries in terms of scholarship programs, and they have a very consistent scholarship program that is um, utilized to provide funding to many member countries that are, under the OAS. Then we have WTO, another popular organization, which is international, of course. Organization is all about trade agreements, setting rules to guide and regulate trading agreements, right? So WTO replaced GATT. So GATT was General Agreement of Tariffs and Trade, and that was replaced by WTO. So WTO is now the organization that is in the place of GATT, and their aim is free flow of trade among nations. So for trade to be operating freely without issues, you must have rules and policies in place. So WTO is an organization that was set up to ensure that there is no unfair trading practices and that there are rules and policies in place guiding importing, exporting within among the member countries. And if there are any disputes that come about, they also assist in eliminating those by ensuring that members follow the trading policies, right? Much as possible, we see free trade being encouraged due to WTO's impact in the Caribbean, and we also see disputes being resolved, right, through their impact. And we also see technical assistance being provided to help build the capacity of these member countries. So again, we see economic growth and development and improved standard of living coming out of the objective. Another international body is the IMF, again a popular one. So IMF stands for International Monetary Fund. They provide again supervisory role for the world's banking system. So they're like the watchdog for the banking system of the world, right? This again is the USA playing the watchdog. So their aim here is to promote global economic growth and financial stability on a global basis. And they encourage international trade. They also encourage reduction of poverty. They provide loans to government during financial crisis. So a time like this, you would hear IMF. Actually, there was an article that spoke about IMF providing funding for Grenada government, right, during the COVID period. I stand corrected, but I think I saw that article. They also hold gold currency deposits for countries, for the member countries, and they collaborate very closely with central banks. Remember, we said they supervise the world's banking system. So they actually collaborate with the central bank, which supervises the banking system in each country or within the group of countries, like in the case of ECCB, controlling the Eastern Caribbean countries. So they help the central banks to create better systems that will manage the financial runnings on a global. Then we have WTO, another popular organization, which is international, of course. So the there for the Caribbean to help economic growth, structural economic growth. So they will recommend, I know in fact that we always hear about IMF giving um, report about Grenada's economy. So they do assessment of the economies of these Caribbean countries and they offer support in terms of structural adjustment. So they recommend, structural adjustment necessary for better economic growth, right? So if you listen to maybe the news or government aspect of financial reporting like the budget and so, you may hear of the impact of IMF in assisting in that regard. All right, so I just added this one in, although it's not included in the syllabus, but the OECS, which is the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, I actually saw it as a multiple choice question where they ask about which countries are not in the OECS, right? And we know that the OECS is made up of the Caribbean, Eastern Caribbean CSME, right? CSME stands for Caribbean Single Market and Economy. So it was established in 2006 by 6 members, right, of CARICOM. CS. Right, the OECS have economic and political integration, so they do integrate and have common economic and political policies. They carry a single currency, which is the EC, and they are managed by the ECCB, which is Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. Right, so we see there again an organization that you know works to help improve and encourage freer trade, fair movement of capital, labor, have common policies that would help member countries to improve economically, and and of course also the standard of living of these countries will improve and we will see better growth and development occurring. So it is very important when we look at the entire topic holistically that countries, yes, they have their own initiative in terms of stimulating growth and development. But we see here how the Caribbean has joined together by forming these common markets, these associations, and even becoming members of other countries because, of course, if we're lesser developed, we tend to depend on other larger developed countries for support, especially from a financial nature, right? And that does have some positive impact. There are some negatives, of course, which the syllabus have not gone into. But from a positive light, we see free trade development, we see more global trade developing, we see economic growth for these countries as funding is pumped into these countries into different projects for different sectoral growth. We see citizens benefiting in terms of their welfare, standard of living improving. We see development in the country, infrastructural, and many other ways, right, from the positive end. So do review these topics again, these institutions. They are always surfacing on the paper one exam in terms of their function. They even ask you sometimes about members, especially those that relate to the Caribbean. So of course, you want to look at objectives and impact, and as I said, membership, right? Any questions that you may have, please forward it to me so that we can have further discussion. Thank you.